The galaxy had known peace for 12,000 years. Not true peace, of course. Wars still happened. Fleets still clashed among the stars. But it was a controlled kind of violence, a proper kind. The great species of the galactic concord had long ago agreed on the rules of warfare. Battles were announced weeks in advance. Fleets formed perfect geometric patterns before firing. Surrender was always accepted. No one targeted escape pods. No one attacked civilian stations. War was a dance, a ritual, a way to settle disputes without chaos. Admiral Kethvaran had served the Dominion for 60 years. His scales had turned silver with age. His 4 eyes had seen 100 battles. He knew the patterns of war better than he knew his own children. He had never lost a fleet engagement. He had never needed to. When the report arrived on his command deck, he almost ignored it. Another territorial dispute in the Outer Rim. Another primitive species claiming systems they could not hold. The Dominion had dealt with such nuisances before. But something in the report made him pause. The species called themselves humans. They had appeared seemingly from nowhere. In just 3 years, they had claimed 17 systems in contested space. 17 systems that the Dominion had marked for future expansion. Kethvaran studied the intelligence files. The humans were soft creatures. No scales, no claws, no natural armor. They came from a small planet orbiting a yellow star in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy. Their technology was crude by Concord standards. Their ships were ugly things, covered in thick metal plates instead of proper energy shields. Their weapons fired solid projectiles like something from ancient history. The analysts had rated them a minor threat. 1 fleet would be enough to push them back to their home system, maybe 2 fleets if they proved stubborn. Kethvaran agreed with the assessment. He had seen primitive species before. They always broke when they faced real military power. They always surrendered when they realized they were outmatched. He ordered the formal war declaration prepared. This was how civilized species did things. You announced your intentions. You gave the enemy time to prepare. You allowed them to gather their forces so the battle would be meaningful. There was no honor in ambush, no glory in surprise attacks. The declaration was transmitted to the human colony of New Helsinki. It explained the Dominion's grievances in proper diplomatic language. It listed the systems the humans would need to abandon. It gave them 30 rotations to prepare their defenses and respond. The humans replied in less than 1 rotation. Kethvaran read their message 3 times. It was only 4 words long. "We'll be waiting." No counteroffer, no negotiation, no request for mediation from the Concord Council. Just 4 words that somehow felt like a challenge. His second-in-command, a young officer named Vethkai, seemed troubled by the response. "Admiral," she said carefully, "perhaps we should request more intelligence on these humans. Their response is unusual." Kethvaran waved a clawed hand dismissively. "They are posturing. Primitive species always try to appear stronger than they are. It means nothing. But they did not ask for terms. They did not try to negotiate. Every species negotiates. Then they are foolish as well as primitive." Kethvaran turned back to the tactical display. "Prepare the 3rd Fleet. We will show these humans how war is conducted among civilized peoples." The 3rd Fleet gathered at the staging point over the next 20 rotations. 200 warships arranged in perfect formation. Cruisers and destroyers and the massive flagship where Kethvaran commanded. It was a beautiful sight. The geometric patterns spoke of discipline and order, of thousands of years of military tradition. Kethvaran felt pride swelling in his chest. This was how the galaxy was meant to work. The strong demonstrated their power. The weak submitted. Balance was maintained. He had studied every battle in Dominion history. He knew every formation, every tactic, every counter move. War was a science that he had mastered long ago. What he did not know, what he could not possibly know, was that the humans had also studied war. They had studied it for 10,000 years. They had studied it against the most dangerous enemy imaginable, themselves. On Earth, the human homeworld, war had never been a ritual. It had never been a dance. From the moment the first human picked up a rock and struck another, war had been about one thing only: survival. Humans had fought with sticks and stones. They had fought with swords and spears. They had fought with guns and bombs and weapons that could crack the planet itself. They had developed tactics that no other species could imagine: ambush, guerrilla warfare, psychological operations, total war. They had learned that rules in war meant nothing. Honor was a luxury for the winning side. The only thing that mattered was not dying. And now they had reached the stars. They had built ships that reflected their history. Ugly ships, brutal ships. Ships designed not for ceremony, but for killing. Admiral Keth Voran did not know any of this. He saw only a primitive species with crude technology. He saw an easy victory that would add to his legend. As his fleet prepared to jump toward Meridian Station, he allowed himself a rare smile. The humans would learn their place. They would learn how civilized species conducted warfare. And when they finally surrendered, as they surely would, Keth Voran would accept their submission with proper dignity. He gave the order to advance. 200 ships jumped into hyperspace, carrying 10,000 crew members toward a battle that would change the galaxy forever. None of them understood what they were flying toward. None of them knew that the age of civilized warfare was about to end. The Third Fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. 200 ships spread across the void in ancient geometric patterns. Energy shields hummed at full power. Weapon systems stood ready. Admiral Keth Voran stood on his command deck and watched Meridian Station grow larger on the view screen. The station was a human outpost, a mining facility built into a large asteroid. Sensor data showed moderate defenses, nothing that could threaten a proper fleet. "Begin the formal challenge," Keth Voran ordered. "Broadcast on all frequencies." His communications officer sent the traditional message. It announced the Dominion's presence. It demanded the humans form their defensive fleet. It gave them 1 hour to prepare for honorable combat. They waited. The minutes passed slowly. Keth Voran watched his tactical display with growing impatience. Where was the human fleet? Intelligence had reported at least a dozen ships in this system. They should be forming their battle line by now. "Admiral," his sensor officer called out, "I am detecting a single vessel. It is approaching from behind the station's moon." "One ship?" Keth Voran leaned forward. "Show me." The image appeared on screen. It was a human warship. The vessel was perhaps half the size of his flagship. Its hull was covered in thick gray armor plates, no elegant curves. No ceremonial markings, just brutal functionality. The ship's name was painted on its side in human letters. The translation software identified it as UN's Perseverance. "Is this their entire response?" Vethakai asked. "One ship against 200? Keth Voran felt insulted. "They mock us. Or perhaps they wish to surrender and have sent an envoy." He ordered a direct communication channel opened. The human ship accepted the connection. A human female appeared on screen. She wore a simple gray uniform. Her hair was dark and cut short. Her eyes were calm in a way that Keth Voran found unsettling. "I am Admiral Keth Voran of the Dominion Third Fleet. You are outnumbered and outmatched. Surrender now and your lives will be spared." The human woman smiled. It was a small smile that did not reach her eyes. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the UNS Perseverance, and I think you misunderstand the situation, Admiral." "There is nothing to misunderstand. You have one ship. I have 200. "Yes," Vasquez said. "You do." She ended the transmission. For a moment, nothing happened. The Perseverance hung motionless in space. The Dominion fleet maintained its formation, waiting for the humans to take their proper position for battle. Then the human ship moved. It did not form a battle line. It did not follow any pattern that Kethvorin recognized. The Perseverance simply accelerated at impossible speed and vanished behind the moon. "What are they doing?" Kethvorin demanded. "Track that ship!" His sensor officer struggled with the controls. "Admiral, I have lost contact. Their ship is moving too fast. The engine signature is... Admiral, this cannot be right. No vessel that size should be capable of such acceleration." Kethvorin opened his mouth to respond. The first explosion cut him off. On the far edge of his formation, a Dominion cruiser burst into flames, then another, then three more in rapid succession. "We are under attack!" someone shouted. "From where?" Kethvorin screamed. "I see nothing!" The Perseverance appeared from behind an asteroid. It fired a spread of missiles that moved faster than anything Kethvorin had ever seen. The missiles struck a destroyer's engine section. The ship broke apart. Before the Dominion gunners could aim, the human vessel was gone again. It had ducked behind the debris of the station, using the wreckage as cover. This was not how battles worked. Ships did not hide. Ships did not run. Ships formed lines and fired at each other until one side won. The humans were not following the rules. "All ships break formation," Kethvorin ordered. "Hunt that vessel down." His fleet scattered. It was a mistake. The Perseverance had been waiting for exactly this response. As the Dominion ship spread out, they lost their overlapping shield coverage. They became isolated, vulnerable. The human ship appeared again, and again, and again, each time from a different direction, each time firing before the Dominion crews could react. The humans targeted engines and life support systems. They did not aim for weapons or shields. They aimed to kill. Kethvorin watched in horror as his tactical display filled with damage reports. Ships burning, ships dead in space, ships trying desperately to regroup. "Admiral," Vethkai grabbed his arm. "They are targeting our communication relays. They are cutting us off from each other." Kethvorin finally understood. This was not random chaos. This was strategy. The humans were isolating his ships, blinding his fleet, picking them off one by one. 11 minutes after the battle began, 47 Dominion ships were destroyed or disabled. The Perseverance emerged from behind the moon one final time. Its hull was scorched from near misses. Smoke trailed from a damaged section, but it was still fighting. Captain Vasquez's voice came over the communication channel. It was calm, almost bored. "Admiral Kethvorin, you have lost 1/4 of your fleet to a single ship. I suggest you leave now. Take your survivors home. Tell your leaders what happened here." Kethvorin's hands were shaking. His scales had gone pale with shock. He gave the order to retreat. As the surviving Dominion ships fled into hyperspace, Kethvorin looked back at the burning wreckage of his fleet. His career was over. His honor was destroyed. But worse than that was the cold fear growing in his stomach. The humans had broken every rule of civilized warfare. They had fought without honor, without pattern, without mercy. And they had won. Kethvorin realized something terrible in that moment. The galaxy had just changed. Everything the Concord believed about war was wrong, and the humans were just getting started. The sensor recordings spread through the Galactic Concord like a disease. Every species with access to military intelligence watched the footage from Meridian Station. They watched it again and again. They slowed it down. They analyzed every frame. They could not believe what they were seeing. In the great chambers of the Concord Council, 12 ambassadors sat in stunned silence. These were the leaders of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They had guided civilization for thousands of years. They had maintained order and peace through careful diplomacy. Now they were afraid. Ambassador Yelthrine of the Concord spoke first. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "This recording has been verified by 7 independent agencies. It is authentic. One human warship destroyed or disabled 47 Dominion vessels in 11 minutes. The Dominion ambassador refused to meet anyone's eyes. His species had been humiliated. Their military reputation was in ruins. "How is this possible?" asked the Velkari representative. "The humans have inferior technology. Their ships are primitive." "Their ships are not the problem," said a new voice. Everyone turned. A human delegation had entered the chamber. There were 3 of them, 2 guards in combat armor and 1 woman in the same gray uniform from the Meridian Station recordings. Captain Elena Vasquez walked to the center of the chamber. She showed no fear. She showed no respect for the ancient traditions of the council. She simply stood there and waited. Yelthrine recovered first. "Captain Vasquez, you were responsible for the attack on the Dominion fleet." "I defended my people from an unprovoked act of war," Vasquez corrected. "The Dominion declared war on us. They brought 200 ships to destroy our colony. I stopped them." "You broke every law of civilized warfare," the Dominion ambassador shouted. "You attacked without warning. You used ambush tactics. You targeted life support systems." Vasquez turned to face him. Her expression did not change. "Yes, I did. That is barbaric. That is war." The chamber fell silent again. Vasquez continued speaking. Her voice was calm and clear. "I have studied your laws of warfare, your traditions, your rules of engagement. They are very impressive, very noble, very civilized." She paused. "They are also completely insane." "How dare you?" the Dominion ambassador began. "You announce your attacks weeks in advance. You form pretty patterns before shooting. You aim for weapons instead of engines. You accept surrender from enemies who can rebuild and attack you again." Vasquez shook her head slowly. "You do not understand what war actually is." Yelthrine raised a hand for silence. "Then explain it to us, Captain. What is war to humanity?" Vasquez took a long breath. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter, colder. "Humans have been fighting wars for 10,000 years. We have killed each other with rocks and sticks, with swords and arrows, with guns and bombs. We have burned cities. We have destroyed nations. We have come close to ending our entire species more than once." She looked around the chamber at the alien faces watching her. "War is not a game to us. It is not a ritual. It is not a dance. War is the most terrible thing we know. It is death and suffering and destruction. And because we know how terrible it is, we have only one rule when we fight." "What rule?" Yelthrine asked. "Win." Vasquez let the word hang in the air. "Win fast. Win completely. End the war as quickly as possible so the killing can stop. Do not give your enemy time to recover. Do not give them hope. Break their ability to fight and then offer them peace." "That is monstrous," someone whispered. "That is survival," Vasquez replied. "Every human child learns the history of our wars. We know what happens when you fight by rules and your enemy does not. We know what happens when you show mercy to someone who will not show mercy to you. We learned these lessons in blood and fire over thousands of years." The Dominion ambassador stood up. His voice was shaking with rage. "You are animals. Savage beasts pretending to be civilized." Vasquez looked at him without emotion. "Your fleet came to destroy a colony of 200,000 people, families, children. You declared war on us because you wanted our territory, and you call us savage?" The ambassador had no answer. Yelthrine spoke carefully. "What does humanity want, Captain? We want to be left alone. We did not ask to join your concord. We did not ask for the Dominion to attack us. We simply want to live in peace." Vasquez paused. "But if you will not give us peace, we will take it. We will fight any fleet you send. We will use every tactic and weapon we have developed over 10,000 years of killing each other. And we will win. You cannot fight the entire galaxy. Yelthrine said. No, Vasquez agreed, but we can make the cost of fighting us so high that you will choose peace instead. That is the human way. We do not fight wars we cannot win, but when we do fight, we fight to survive. She turned and walked toward the exit. At the door, she stopped and looked back. The Dominion started this war. They can end it whenever they choose. Until then, my people will defend ourselves, by any means necessary. She left without another word. The council sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Yelthrine spoke. We have made a terrible mistake. These humans are not primitives. They are something far more dangerous. What are they? The Velkari asked. Yelthrine thought of the footage. The burning ships, the impossible speed, the ruthless efficiency. Survivors, she said quietly. They are survivors, and survivors will do anything to stay alive. The galaxy had never faced an enemy like humanity before, and deep in their hearts, every ambassador in that chamber knew the truth. The old ways of war were already dead. The Dominion refused to accept defeat. The shame of Meridian Station burned in their collective memory. Their leaders demanded revenge. Their people demanded blood. Pride would not let them walk away. They assembled the Grand Armada. 800 warships gathered at the edge of human space. It was the largest fleet mobilized in 3,000 years. Every ship was equipped with the latest weapons. Every crew was trained to the highest standards. This time there would be no mistakes. This time they would overwhelm the humans through pure numbers. Admiral Keth Voren was not given command. He had been stripped of his rank and sent home in disgrace. The new commander was High Admiral Vorthax, the most decorated officer in Dominion history. He had studied the Meridian Station recordings for weeks. He believed he understood human tactics now. They rely on speed and surprise, Vorthax told his officers. They attack from unexpected angles. They hide behind obstacles and strike when we are not prepared. He pointed to the tactical display. We will not make the same mistakes. Our fleet will maintain tight formation. We will watch every direction at once. We will give them no openings. His officers nodded in agreement. 800 ships against a handful of human vessels. The mathematics were simple. Victory was certain. The Armada jumped to the Varenthi corridor. This was a narrow passage between two nebulas, the only route to the inner human colonies. The humans would have to defend it. Vorthax arranged his fleet carefully. Ships covered every approach. Sensors scanned in all directions. Communication networks linked every vessel together. He would not be blinded like Keth Voren. Human vessels detected, his sensor officer announced. 12 ships approaching. 12 ships. Vorthax felt a moment of doubt. Why would the humans send only 12 vessels against 800? Were they insane? Were they suicidal? Or did they know something he did not? The human ships emerged from hyperspace. They were different from the Perseverance. Larger, more heavily armed. Their hulls were covered in strange new equipment that the Dominion sensors could not identify. Captain Vasquez's voice came over the communication channel. High Admiral Vorthax, I am giving you one chance to withdraw. Take your fleet home. End this war. There does not need to be more death today. Vorthax laughed. You are outnumbered 60-1. You cannot possibly win. You are correct, Vasquez said. We cannot win a fair fight against 800 ships. That is why we are not going to fight fair. The human ships began to move. They spread out in a pattern that Vorthax did not recognize. They were not forming a battle line. They were not preparing for a direct engagement. They were doing something else entirely. What are they doing? Vorthax demanded. His answer came in the form of light. The human ships began firing, but not at the Dominion fleet. They fired at empty space around the Armada, hundreds of small projectiles scattered in every direction. They tumbled and spun and drifted. They are deploying debris. Vorthax realized. They are trying to create cover for themselves. He ordered his ships to destroy the projectiles. Thousands of weapon systems opened fire at once. It was exactly what the humans wanted. The projectiles were not simple debris. They were electronic warfare devices. When the Dominion weapons struck them, they exploded in bursts of electromagnetic energy. Shield frequencies were scrambled. Sensor systems went blind. Communication networks filled with static. For 30 seconds, the Grand Armada could not see, could not hear, could not coordinate. 30 seconds was enough. The human ships had analyzed the recordings from Meridian Station. They had studied Dominion shield technology. They had built new weapons designed specifically to bypass those shields. Every weakness had been identified. Every countermeasure had been prepared. The 12 human vessels struck like wolves attacking a herd of sheep. They knew exactly where the command ships were positioned. They knew exactly how Dominion formations responded to attack. They had calculated every possible reaction and prepared for each one. Vorthax watched in horror as his flagship's shields failed. The new human weapons cut through them like they did not exist. His ship shook as explosions ripped through the hull. "How?" he screamed. "How do they know our frequencies?" The answer was simple. The humans learned. Every battle taught them something new. Every engagement gave them data to analyze. They studied their enemies with obsessive attention. They built new weapons and new tactics for each fight. They never stopped adapting. The Dominion fought the same way they had fought for 1,000 years. The humans fought a new war every time. The Battle of Varenthi Corridor lasted 6 hours. The humans lost 4 ships. 120 brave men and women died defending their people. The Dominion lost their entire armada, 600,000 crew members, 800 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy, gone, destroyed, burning in the void. High Admiral Vorthax survived. His escape pod was recovered by a human destroyer. He expected to be executed. Instead, they gave him medical treatment and a communication device. "Send a message to your leaders," Captain Vasquez told him. Her face was tired, sad. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them we do not want this war. Tell them every fleet they send will meet the same fate. We will not stop. We will not surrender. We will keep fighting until you give us peace." Vorthax's final transmission was intercepted by Concord intelligence. It spread through the galaxy within hours. "They learn," his message said. "Every battle teaches them. Every defeat makes them stronger. We are not fighting a species. We are fighting evolution itself. In the name of all the gods, stop this war before there is nothing left of us." The Dominion leadership finally listened. 3 weeks later, they sent a message to the human colonies. Not a declaration of war, not a threat, a request for peace talks. Humanity had won. The Treaty of Carthax was signed on a neutral space station 6 months after the Battle of Varenthi Corridor. Representatives from every major species in the Galactic Concord attended. They watched in silence as Captain Elena Vasquez put her name on the document that would reshape civilization. The terms were simple. Humanity would receive full membership in the Concord. They would keep all 17 systems they had claimed in the Outer Rim. They would receive a permanent seat on the Council with full voting rights. In exchange, they offered something unexpected. They offered to teach. "We will share our military doctrine with any species that requests it," Vasquez announced. "Our tactics, our strategies, our philosophy of warfare, everything we have learned in 10,000 years of fighting." Some ambassadors called this generous. Others called it the most terrifying clause ever written into a treaty. The Dominion ambassador asked the question everyone was thinking. "Why would you share your secrets? Why give away the advantage that defeated us?" Vasquez looked at him for a long moment. "Because we do not want to fight anymore. We never wanted to fight at all. You forced us into this war. We won it. Now we want it to end. Forever." She paused and looked around the room at all the alien faces watching her. If every species in the galaxy understands how we fight, then no one will be foolish enough to attack us again. And if everyone fights the same way, then wars will be shorter, less bloody. They will end faster because both sides will understand the true cost. The treaty was signed. The war was over. But the changes had only begun. Within a year, human military advisors were stationed with every major fleet in the Concord. They taught the elegant formations and ceremonial patterns of the old ways meant nothing. They taught that speed and surprise were worth more than numbers. They taught that the goal of war was not honor, but victory. Not everyone wanted to learn. The old admirals and generals resisted. They spoke of tradition, of dignity, of the proper way to conduct warfare. But the young officers listened. They had seen the recordings from Meridian Station and Varenthi Corridor. They had watched one ship defeat 200. They had watched 12 ships destroy 800. They understood that the old ways were dead. The transformation took a century. Slowly, battle by battle, the galaxy changed. The beautiful geometric formations disappeared. Ships no longer announced their attacks weeks in advance. Fleets no longer lined up facing each other like dancers at a ceremony. War became fast and brutal and mercilessly efficient. Some mourned the change. The veteran commanders who had spent their lives mastering the old doctrine watched their traditions fade away. They wrote memoirs about the lost age of honorable warfare. They complained that the humans had brought barbarism to the stars, but the casualty reports told a different story. Wars that once lasted decades now ended in months. Conflicts that once killed millions now killed thousands. The brutal efficiency of human tactics meant that fewer soldiers died. Fewer civilians suffered. Fewer worlds burned. The humans had been right. Short wars were better than long ones. Quick victories caused less suffering than endless stalemates. Ambassador Yel Threen visited Earth 50 years after the treaty. She was old now. Her scales had faded to pale gray. She walked with difficulty. But she wanted to see the human home world before she died. Captain Vasquez met her at the landing platform. Vasquez had retired from the military long ago. Her hair was white now. Her face was lined with age. But her eyes were the same, calm and steady and seeing everything. "Why did you come?" Vasquez asked. Yel Threen looked out at the human city, towers of glass and steel reaching toward the sky. Millions of people living their lives in peace. Children playing in parks. Families walking together. "I came to understand," she said. "For 50 years I have tried to understand how your species thinks. Why you fight the way you fight. Why you refuse to follow our rules." "Did you find your answer?" Yel Threen nodded slowly. "I think so. The other species of the Concord evolved on safe worlds. We faced predators and challenges, yes, but nothing that truly threatened our existence. We developed civilization before we developed warfare. We learned to be civilized first." She turned to look at Vasquez. "Humanity was different. Your world was dangerous from the beginning. You faced ice ages and predators and diseases. You fought each other for resources before you even had language. War is not something you invented. It is something you are. It is written into your very nature." Vasquez did not argue. "That is why we feared you at first," Yel Threen continued. "We thought you were monsters, animals who would destroy everything. And now?" Yel Threen smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. "Now I understand that you are not monsters. You are survivors. You fought so hard because you had to. You learned every brutal lesson because the alternative was extinction. And when you finally reached the stars, you brought all that knowledge with you." She reached out and took Vasquez's hand. "You did not make the galaxy more violent. You made it more honest. War was always terrible. We simply pretended it was not. You forced us to face the truth." In the deepest archives of the Galactic Concord, in files marked with the highest security classification, there remained a single document, It was transmitted automatically to every fleet in every system, updated in real time whenever human vessels were detected. The document contained only one line: "Warning, a human warship is here. Do not engage without authorization. Contact command immediately." Most young officers in the conquered fleet laughed when they saw the warning. Humanity was their ally now, their teacher, their friend. But the old commanders who had survived Meridian Station and Varenthi Corridor never laughed. They remembered what humans were capable of. They remembered that the soft creatures with no claws and no scales had broken the greatest military power in the galaxy. They remembered that one human ship had changed history forever, and they knew that somewhere deep in human nature, buried beneath the kindness and the friendship and the peace, there was still a species forged in 10,000 years of war, a species that did not fight for honor, a species that fought to win. The galaxy had changed forever. The old ways were gone, and in the end, that was exactly what humanity wanted. Peace through strength, victory through adaptation, survival through any means necessary. That was the human way, and the galaxy would never forget it.